Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today we are one day away from Lightfall, technically less than one at the time I'm recording this video. But moving on, we have been released with some patch notes, which is really exciting. We didn't get told we were going to be getting any of these right now. Most would assume that they would be given tomorrow, but I'm assuming Bungie wanted to be decent with us in that we want to play tomorrow and they don't want to necessarily have to release this in the morning before Lightfall drops, and the servers come back online at reset at 9 a.m. PST tomorrow. So I'm just going to do a quick read through and make some points if I feel the need to do so. So Destiny 2 update 7.0.0.1. Activities Crucible, our first topic. Added an exotic armor swap penalty applied to Trials of Osiris in competitive division. Equipping a different piece of exotic armor drains all ability energy in these modes. I think this is good. I've heard people talking about this. I do think that some of what happens, I guess, with exotics and some exotics being used is that they are, a lot better. They are a lot better when they, are equipped with certain exotics. I know that I heard a random tidbit of that Arc Staff is a terrible super, and that it's really only good with Raid and Flux, because otherwise it's too easy to kill the person, and the super just doesn't last long enough. Just a little tidbit on that. Competitive vision fixed a bug that caused the competitive intro quest to auto-claim the completion reward. Rewards are now claimed upon interacting with Shaxx. Competitive Rift and Showdown have reduced revive delay time to 1.5 seconds from 2 seconds. Reduced respawn time from 5.5 seconds. Wait a minute. Reduced respawn time from 5.5 seconds from 7 seconds. Oh, time 2... I cannot read today. Okay. Bloop, cut that out. Bleh. But Vanguard Ops. We have fixed an issue in Heist Battleground Europa where a heavy ammo crate could respawn for players who get quarantined into the boss fight area. When you play Vanguard Ops or Nightfall, your final score determines a reputation multiplier for that activity's completion. Multipliers run from 1.0 under 30,000 points to 7.0 above 250,000. So like Masters and higher. We also tune the amount of Vanguard rank you receive for completions, Nightfall quality, and streaks. Thank goodness, because I do feel like unless you're doing GMs or the highest, completion and you're able to grind these out quickly, you do not get that much rep, which, people have talked about. And, there's no reason it should be similar between Crucible, Gambit, and Vanguard. Maybe Crucible and Gambit should be a little bit more similar because, I guess I feel like the amount of time taken for games in those modes, can be similar, but strikes are obviously, pertinent on how many enemies there are and the time allotted for them, taken for them to, to be able to, complete it depending on the strike. Obviously, Vanguard has increased in difficulty, part of Make Destiny challenging again, which is nice. Additional rotating modifiers have been added to the Vanguard Ops playlist, which is nice. I feel like we've had the same modifiers for years at this point. Difficulty options. Hero, Legend, and Master difficulties have been reworked for greater challenge and accommodating new modifiers. Adept difficulty has been removed because this doesn't have champs, so it really was like a Nightfall that people would do because they wouldn't want champs and they'd want a chance at, I guess, or to grind out the 3 to get the the powerful drop. Hero activity level is now soft cap at plus 20. Legend is power cap plus 30, and Master is power cap plus 40. Each has a scaling combat delta that keeps you under level in the activity and provides a smoother pathway to Grandmaster. Most Hero, Legend, Master, Grandmaster activities now feature the ability to use overcharged weapons for increased damage, pretty much burns, which weapons are overcharged are determined by your seasonal artifact unlocks and activity modifiers. Elemental singes and perns have been replaced and broken out into incoming and outgoing components. Threats and surges. Damage bonuses for surges and overcharges do not stack. Good, because it would make it too easy. Raids and dungeons. Armor pieces from Master difficulty grass drop with higher stats. This is good. I don't understand. Like, it was kind of one of those things that people were talking about Spire, and obviously Duality was 2 weeks ago where a lot of people were grinding their Artifice armor. And then last week was Spire, which is just, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a worse grind, but it's just not as quick as Keitel and Duality and that sort of thing. I still think people think the mechanics are as easy on like Spire. Like, it takes a little bit more time. But UI, UX, Lightfall title screen. The title screen has received a visual and audio update for Lightfall. Guardian ranks. UI throughout Destiny 2 has been updated to display players' Guardian rank. Cool. Orbit screen added a button to directly access the Journey tab. I'm assuming this is something new, which is really cool. Triumphs tab goes to Journey tab. When building the Guardian Ranks feature, the team leaned into the opportunity to refresh and relabel the Triumphs tab to better encapsulate the player's journey through Destiny 2. Many of the changes will be immediately visible, but some are more subtle, including an access point to view details about the commendations you have sent and received. An additional access point for seasonal challenges. Seals are no longer broken into two categories, seals and titles. They are just titles. Additionally, to focus the information shown at the top level, both triumphs and titles have been migrated to bespoke subscreens. Added the ability to unequip titles from the subscreen rather than going into the details screen. Okay, cool. Like, because honestly, like, shuffling through the pages and equipping them and clicking them is just kind of tedious. Commendations. Commendations may be sent and received near the end of most activities. Cool. Accessibility. If all locations where commendations may be viewed or given, the player's colorblind preferences are respected. Okay. This includes VFX in the post-game Carnage report. Post-game Carnage report, PGCR. Update the PCGR to complement the new commendation features and updated some features. The PGCR now consists of two tabs, the commendation screen and the scoreboard. The reputation wheel has been simplified and is displayed on the top right of the scoreboard page. The player can now access the PGCR during the mission and count down by pressing a button to open nav mode. Holding it down will still take you to the director. A trade-off for this functionality is what the mission and countdown is active. Mission end countdown is active. The nav mode cannot be opened. Pressing a button to open nav mode will open the PGCR instead. This is probably one reason why they were kind of delaying it at the end of matches and at the end of completions. Like, you would have to pull up your director before, the end sequence kind of happens, and like Strikes, Crucible, Gambit, or anything like that, which, is kind of annoying. Obviously, if you're really trying to just queue and like, spam queue something, but obviously it can be avoided. Obviously, if you click it early enough, or if you go to nav early enough, type of thing. But ritual rank tooltips. Updated rank tooltips, so all rank tooltips now include a streak tracker and added a section that shows a player's total reputation rank points. Tracking. More items can be tracked at a time. Up to 3 Guardian ranks objectives can be tracked. Cool. Up to 6 non-Guardian ranks objectives can be tracked. Okay. So it's like with our ability now that we can track certain objectives if we choose, but then it's also if we want, we can track a little bit more, which is nice. Nav mode updates. A tab has been added specifically to display tracked Guardian ranks objectives. Tracked objectives that are not specific to Guardian ranks are grouped together. The tracking now split into multiple sections on the Journey tab. Guardian ranks section specifically shows tracked Guardian ranks objectives. All currently trackable non-quest objectives are shown below the seasonal challenge access point. Guardian ranks auto-tracking is enabled by default. The goal is to immediately point players towards objectives they can work on to increase their Guardian rank. This may be toggled on the Journey screen if manual tracking is more your speed. Tracked seasonal challenges properly display their challenge type and its tooltip on the tracking screen. Collections. Some access points have migrated from the Triumphs tab to the Collections tab. Lore, weapon patterns and catalysts, medals, stat trackers. Increase the number of visible recently discovered items. Okay. So maybe this is foreshadowing that they're giving us a lot more, for us to get. Which will be cool. Who knows if they're putting more work in, getting more weapons. I don't think they've even told us how many weapons we're getting. I think with Witch Queen dropping, it was like 47 weapons or something. I think if I remember correctly, I might be wrong. But waypoints, rectangles are out, circles are in. Guardian ranks replace the season pass level for Guardians, which is cool. It was cool whenever you saw like 1,000 or higher. Some just didn't. Even if it was like 500 or higher, I was just kind of in awe. I only made it to like 410 last season, type of thing. I probably would have made 500. Celine, no. I probably would have made 500 if my PC hadn't been like indisposed for 4 weeks with water cooling issues. But ritual vendors in the tower, Zavala Shax, Drifter, Banshee, 44, Saladin, Save 14 now have help tooltips describing the core ritual and reputation, as well as explaining some of the less visible features. Okay. Quality of life updates and fixes. Character screen. Remove the currency display on the character screen. Clans fixed an issue where Hawthorne's icon in the tower map wouldn't consistently pulse when a clan engram was available to claim. I do think that it only did it when you had like the main one that would drop like Pinnacle for her. And then you would go see her and then you'd be like, oh, well, I have these 3 other like Crucible Gambit and Vanguard, type of things, but it wouldn't always show. I would I'm not gonna lie, I would periodically check Hawthorne just in case when I'm leveling because I'm trying to level or whatever else, which obviously kind of a big deal with new expansions as powerfuls. Roster, improved contrast between player names and background colors on the roster. Fixed an issue where causing the director screen to refresh the footer UI when players in the roster changed states. Okay. Settings fixed an issue causing the settings menu to close when leaving a submenu. Okay. Gameplay and investment. Armor. Armor energy has been deprecated, meaning we don't have it anymore. Amen to that. I'm not going to lie. This is probably... Honestly, for features, I think that this is really going to drive up how easy it is to make builds, and that you're going to be able to see a lot more unique builds. There's going to be a lot more stuff you can run together, that you couldn't otherwise, before, because you were kind of just funneled into this, this system where, oh yeah, if you have a void armor piece and you want to run like a void, subclass type thing, you can't really do anything like that. Or if you're, I guess in the past, if you're running War Mines, you would be mostly running solar. And then if you're running solar, you're not going to be able to get things like, you're not going to be able to get the void, like synergy perks to go along with it, or, just a number of different things, I guess. Armor mods that were previously based on weapon archetype are now based on weapon damage type. Most armor mods that are based on weapon damage type also have a harmonic version, which is discounted when the weapon's damage type matches your subclass damage type. Makes sense. Armor mod costs have been generally reduced across the board. Because they're trying to make the game harder, and I've covered this in like one of my other videos, is that they're trying to make the game harder. So the fact is that you're gonna have to. I mean, I don't think you're gonna have to in every piece of content. I think that it's geared more so that at the end game level stuff, you're gonna have to have actual builds, type of thing in order to compete, in order to be effective, in order for it to not just be a grueling standstill of a pace, where you're barely pushing forward on these enemies that are going to be a lot harder, in PvE. The combat style mod socket has been deprecated and replaced on all armor pieces with an extra socket for mods associated with that armor slot, helmet, gauntlets, etc. The charged with light and elemental wells armor mods have been merged into a single system, armor charge. Players using the armor charge system can gain up to 3 stacks of armor charge at a time, expanded up to 6 stacks by equipping charged up mods. Picking up an orb of power grants 1 stack of armor charged. Many mods that previously created elemental wells are granted stacks of charged with light directly have been modified to instead spawn orbs of power. Mods that provide an ongoing benefit, such as Font of Wisdom, now grant that benefit as long as you have stacks of armor charge. These mods cause armor charge stacks to decay every 10 seconds. Some redundant mods that have been deprecated with their effect would overlap with an existing mod's effect. Makes sense. Some armor mods, such as the Kickstart mods and the most mods triggered by using a finisher, now make use of the armor charge system. Some of the functionality of elemental wells and their associated mods have been moved into subclass fragments, and the new fire sprite and void breach. Warmind cells have been deprecated. Yeah, I mean, kind of sad here. Probably kind of interesting, I guess. I never really would have theorized this, but they have told us about this weeks ago. And then it's like, obviously we lost Rasputin, the Warmind. Sorry, spoiler, but at this point, everyone should have played it or either looked it up the day before Lightfall. Seasonal artifact. Unlocking a perk in the seasonal artifact now grants that perk directly to the character when it is relevant. You no longer need to socket an armor mod to gain an artifact perk's effect. Column 2 of the artifact now unlocks multiple discounted mods per node. Okay. And they did talk about this. This was something that they definitely did, so that it's like, you have ease of use or focused building to where you can have like just a stacked loadout, type of thing, which is really, really cool, honestly. Like, you're going to be able to make a lot of different loadouts. And I think, the interesting thing is they're introducing loadouts which look really nice, and aesthetically pleasing, as well as informative on what all is in them. But, I'm almost wondering if 10 per character is going to be enough. It's going to be enough for at least your basic stuff, like DPS build, ad clear, just a lot of different, a few different things that are just very typical of anything in Destiny 2 related in PvE. But, who knows? With this, maybe people will be clamoring for more loadout slots, which who knows? Maybe it'll be one of those things where, Bungie is like, well, it takes a lot of resources to have, just all this backlog data on the game, type of thing. And they're obviously trying to make the game smoother as well. On like a side note to that, they said that they were trying to reduce load times with Lightfall, which will be really nice because, I'm not going to lie, sometimes the load times are just, it feels like you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's like, it's not a current gen game. Obviously, it like isn't in a sense, but it does demand a lot in this game. But resetting your selection of the single add effect is now free. Good. Remove the 1 second button hold to unlock an artifact perk. A single button press now unlocks the perk. Perfect. Artifice Armor has had its bonus socket converted into a socket that allows you to increase any one stat on that armor piece by +3, essentially being +5 if it's masterworked, obviously. Adjusted the amount of damage reduction provided by the resilience stat in PvE at a tier 10 damage reduction now caps at 30%, down from 40% in the previous 3 seasons. And the progression of the damage reduction across tiers has been smooth to give more relative value to lower tiers of resilience, which I think is good. I think it was just kind of dumb that it's you'd have to have 8, 9, or 10 really to have relevance, because even at tier 8 with it was still it was below 30% reduction, type of thing. The armor mods grinding resilience have had their armor energy cost increase to 4 plus 10 resilience and 2 plus 5, pretty much just like recovery. The Iron Lord's Pride perk has been added to all Iron Banner armor sets from Season 8 to the present. Okay, I mean, that's a good thing. There have been people that have been playing and probably have sets from way back in the day. So it's they should all have this perk, to be honest with you. They shouldn't have to re-grind if they have, a really nice roll and they want to get some prisms. Because that's what this grants. You equip 4 of these and then you do prisms. But exotic armor changes here is the juicy part. From what I've seen, I haven't seen what's actually happened. But Capri Stain, true sight is now granted when damaging an enemy with a smoke bomb. Additionally, when you have an undetonated smoke bomb on the battlefield and have not been made invisible by a smoke bomb, you gain significantly increased melee energy generation. This is a good change. This doesn't completely butcher Capri's, so you can still use it. And honestly, for PvE, this is actually going to be really kind of nice now. Because obviously with weakness and that sort of thing, that sort of thing is anti-champion now. So you can essentially stun with, weakness and that sort of thing. But then, this gives it a more clear utility identity rather than just being a crutch. We know where they're going. Wait around this corner, stacked, with a couple of pulse rifles or scouts or whatever long range finagling, loadout you wanna have equipped. Okay. But let's move on. Heart of Inmost Light, Hoyle, as most refer to it now, which people have been waiting for a nerf, really hard. Reduced duration of the empowered ability buffs in PvE to 5 seconds, down from 10 seconds. Good. Because literally you just see people that are waiting the 9 seconds and then popping an ability, between encounters and stuff and just keeping their stats up for, fresh at every encounter. Reduced bonus class ability regeneration while empowered to 25% per stack in both PvE and PvP, down from 150% and 38% respectively. This actually looks, this actually looks like they're really hitting it hard. I'm not gonna lie. I guess I'll need to see it in game. I'm not a huge math person, but for me, looking at this looks like it is getting hit hard. Which doesn't surprise me. Storm nades, getting nerfed super early on because, oh, look, we can just have, 1 or 2 of people with this and we literally just full clear a room without having to do anything. They nerf storm nades. But then it's I've used, literally, I remember I was using Helm with Ashes to Ashes and, what is this strike? Birthplace of the Vile, and obviously it's a longer strike. There is a good amount of ads, but I was able to get the throwing shield, Sentinel shield with Titan 4 times. 4 times. And I'm pretty sure my Ashes to Ashes, I only had 1 of them on my helmet. And for those of you that know, Ashes to Ashes grants bonus super energy when you get grenade kills. and you can equip 2. Obviously, it's like 3 solar energy, but I was able to get it 4 times, and the only reason I did it was because I had a bounty for 25 super kills, type of thing, and I was able to like do it on like the second time I popped or something like that in that strike. Like, it was absolutely asinine. Like, what you can do with it like this, and that's a very basic like function. Like, goodness, Hoyle is super OP. This change is intended to increase how easy it is to get and maintain a 2 times empowerment bonus in PvE, as well as reduce the total amount of bonus ability energy provided. The goal is for Heart of Invulnerable Light to remain strong in ability-focused builds, while giving room for other exotics to shine as well. So honestly, you're gonna be able to do this, but you're going to have more of a build around it rather than just slapping the item on, and it instantly is going to work, in any sort of build. Too much multi-purpose there. The Bombardiers now cause targets damaged by its explosion to become severed when used by a Strand Hunter. Severed is a weakness thing. For those that don't know, it's a Strand term. It is the weakness term for Strand. This is unique. I really like this. Bombardiers, they've been doing some subtle things, but obviously, like, it does various things depending on subclass. So, that clarification on there is nice. Chromatic Fire has been updated to work with Strand. Perfect. Chromatic Fire is one of those that, when you do with a kill with a kinetic weapon that's precision, it's, I guess I don't really use it, but it's kind of like a dragonfly type thing, but it's dependent on your subclass. So you could have, tomorrow we're going to be able to have 5 different types of explosions. I know that a really popular combo is to do, I can't remember the gun. The Siva gun, Outbreak, to do Outbreak with it, because you get the nanites and you get the explosion, and it's just a ad clearing machine. Mantle of Battle Harmony updated to work with Strand, because they are giving us Strand weapons right away. Some of you may not know how new you are to the game, but when they introduced Stasis, the only Stasis gun we had was Salvation's Grip. And Salvation's Grip is an exotic that, like, the only reason people used it was for triumphs, to do, like, a quest line with triumphs to destroy these crystals, because it was the only one that you could do it with. It was like Revision 0 killing these security drones, only who cares about the end result of Salvation's Grip? The thing desperately needs either, like, a rework or a catalyst that, like, would make it good, because it even though it's a stasis and it's a freezy thing, it's dog, right? But yeah, we are getting Strand weapons right away, which I'm really excited about. I think that's one thing they dropped the ball off with stasis. Obviously it was kind of neat back then, because it was like, I'm pretty sure it was like 2 seasons, so like half a year until we had stasis weapons, and then it's like, oh look, we have things like Headstone, which, being the stasis perk, kind of like Volt Shot, Incandescent, and I guess Repulsor Brace, for stasis. But who knows what we're going to get with Strand. I'm really excited to see. Verity's Bro updated to work with Strand. For those that don't know, Verity's Brow, I don't know, I said bro. Verity's Brow works. So when you're running a weapon that is of the archetype of your subclass, and you get kills stacking up, I think it's 4 or 5 times or something like that, you increase your grenade's damage, and then it also increases its regeneration, your grenade regeneration rate, when you have stacks of these. So it serves really well, and obviously it's a Warlock exotic. It serves really well, I guess, with like Devour builds. You can be spamming grenades a lot with this, type of thing. And, you can be using it to obviously weaken with the Void class. But, there's a lot of applications for it, to where it's like you can maintain your ability energy without having to have high discipline, or you can have high discipline and just be absolutely spamming grenade. But Fell Winter's Helm triggers Weaken Burst off Strand melees. Fell Winter's Helm is the interesting Warlock one, that it weakens Off of powered melee kills, I think. I don't actually use it that much, but that's good. I mean, obviously they need to make sure that everything works with this, otherwise people are going to be using this and be like, "Oh, does this not work with Strand?" type of thing. And I mean, nobody wants that. Claws of Ahamkara will not provide an additional melee charge when equipped to a Strand subclass. Possibly too powerful, I guess. Claws of Ahamkara, for those that don't know, they give you double melee charge. So you can have double of the dash, you can have double of the celestial fire, you can have double of the singularity, the pocket singularity, I think it's called, for void. Yeah, arc I can't remember. I just know that like you would use the dash probably with it, so you could always have one up. Armor that supports coloration and appearance change based on your currently selected subclass has been updated to support Strand. This includes the following 2020 through 2022 Solstice armor sets, because for those that don't know, it would glow like red, blue, green, icy, or yeah, I guess blue. Yeah, no, like an icy blue for stasis. It'll be green with Strand, obviously. And then purple, blue, and red. Not really red, I guess. I don't know. Solar is more of like an orangish, fiery sort of thing. But Antaeus Swords and ornaments, no backup plans and ornaments. Okay. No backup plans, for those that don't know, is a Titan shoulder piece. That's like, I mean, it looks like a bunch of like light armor made of light, I guess, kind of things. I don't know how to describe it very well. Weapons crafting changes. Resonant elements have been removed. Those are the Doritos, as many people call them, or the chips, right? Crafting component costs have been replaced with standard currencies such as glimmer and enhancement cores. Okay, so I mean, hopefully we get more enhancement cores in the drops in this, because I'll be honest, unless you're constantly like, doing rank ups and that sort of thing, enhancement cores are used for a lot of things. Deep Sight will now only manifest on weapons that have a pattern available to unlock. Thank goodness. So you don't like get these weapons and be like, oh, that weapon looks cool. Oh, it's not craftable, type of thing. It'll be nice. Like, it's gonna be a quality of life where you don't really need to. If you don't like the roll, you're not gonna be like, oh well, should I keep it or dismantle it? Blah blah blah. You'll just dismantle it because it goes towards a pattern. Deep Sight has been removed on existing weapons that do not have a pattern available to unlock. Yeah, because there's no point to them anymore, which will be nice. Any red borders you have that you didn't dismantle, are just going to appear normal in your vault if you didn't clear them. The Deep Sight attunement objective has been removed. You can immediately extract or dismantle the weapon to obtain pattern progress. Thank goodness, because I know that a lot of people were just hot swapping Deep Sight Resonant farmers, where you'd get to the end of a Crucible match or an end of a Strike or Gambit match, and you would just switch because it would give you like 42% or something. So you'd have to do it. I mean, but you'd have to do it over 3 matches, obviously, which is kind of annoying. Crafting bug fixes. Fixed an issue where a crafted perk cost was doubled for the King's Fall weapons Defiance of Yasmin and Smite of Moraine. Defiance of Yasmin is the sniper. Smite of Moraine, I believe, is I actually feel dumb, I guess. Smite of Moraine is the LMG. Is the LMG, I'm pretty sure. Oh, I guess, yeah, no, that's completely not up. I was about to check, but updated several different VFX to address miscellaneous bugs and performance issues. Restored the correct audio to field forged shotguns. Okay. Red reticle is now enabled on PC. Did they get rid of red? Huh. I guess I didn't notice that. That's really random, I guess. I would usually run red. I mean, you guys can see, down here by my name that it's obviously, like a maroon, darkish red. But linear fusion rifles reduce damage versus champions, mini bosses in vehicles by 15%. This is obviously a much needed change, as the only weapons you would use besides these would maybe be like Xenophage if you really didn't have a linear. Izanagi's you could use, but it wouldn't be as good. I mean, and it's, unless you're equipping like a sniper reload mod, like you're not going to get off a million honed edge times 4 shots type of thing. And it's like or if you were using Galahorn and rockets, which are just easier for bosses with tougher crit points, right? And you didn't want to use Div, I guess. Sleeper Stimulant and the Queenbreaker are unaffected. This is good. Sleeper hasn't had a place for a while because of its reduced ammo economy. Like most, I think that they decided not to hit the ammo economy on linears because then people would still only be using them for, the boss and mini bosses and not anything else, type of thing. And they'd find a way around it, to make it, and that sort of thing. But making them weaker pulls them more in line with, how they should be, and that they shouldn't just be the dominant force that controls highest DPS option. And Queenbreaker's been bad for a while. People don't use this for anything. It's kind of it's a joke that it should get something. And I mean, Sleeper hits hard. I think it does hit harder than like Bait and Switch Cataclysmic. But it has like half the ammo or something. And the charge time is obviously, it isn't insane once you have the catalyst, but it's just no comparison, really. An exotic that can outdamage a legendary. I mean, machine guns increased damage by 10%. Thank God. Increased reserve ammo by 50% at 0 inventory stat and 20% at 100 inventory stat. So, your inventory stat, that is like ammo reserves, I'm assuming. The language they use here is kind of odd. I don't really know, I guess, what inventory... This might be dependent on, I guess, archetype, too, because certain archetypes have more ammo or less ammo and that sort of thing, but we'll see what this means, I guess, come tomorrow. Heavy grenade launchers increase damage versus champions, mini bosses, boss reveals by 20%, miners by 40%. So we're talking about a anarchy meta again, because this obviously improved projectile collision, making it slightly easier to land hits. Good for spike nades. I know that most people were going for an auto-loading explosive light Wendigo last week. Fear not if you don't have one. I mean, and you have Anarchy, I think Anarchy is going to be, pretty good, and most people have it. I mean, if you don't, you have to spend, 240 spoils. Increased blast radius by 1 meter. This kind of reminds me of what they did with rockets, where they increased rocket blast radius around the board by, I don't think it was... I don't think it was as small, but I can't remember exactly, but... Parasite is ineffective. I'm sad about this. For those that don't know, I am a Parasite fiend. I love this thing. I literally got it day 1 of Witch Queen because I grinded the campaign, and then I was doing all the quests. I didn't even realize that it's an exotic quest. It's one of the funniest quests in the game. If you don't have this one and you're new to come into the game, do this quest. It is really funny. And, Parasite is a fun weapon. The thing about it is that obviously it's ineffective, and they did, I think they nerfed it a little bit. But if you get, a solar burn, or you have some way of proccing additional damage with it, this thing hits pretty hard for a single shot, type of thing. And it's just, it's fun. It's actually pretty fun ad clear, because the blast radius is maximum inherently, and then it just only gets higher, I guess, with more Worm's Hunger you have. you can really clear rooms with it, unlike any other GL. You usually don't have to worry too much about ammo. You only usually get like 7 shots, but it's like the only thing this thing isn't going to kill is like a fat major, but it's going to kill everything else, even at 0 stacks of Worm's Hunger. So I just think Parasite's a fun weapon and a unique weapon, and I really hope, obviously, with this year, they're doing more things to make more unique exotics like this. Because while it doesn't have insane applications, like it's not a weapon that's like discredited or just completely dismissed, type of thing. Shotguns. Shotgun reticles now change in size proportional to spread angle. Interesting. I will have to see this for myself. But maybe this is kind of a hint that it's like maybe we're going to be having a shotgun sort of hot swap DPS meta, possibly, where you see the return of like Philo, auto-loading Vorpal, and some other weapons, and Heritage, obviously, we could craft last year. I haven't done Deepstone that much. I haven't crafted a single weapon from it because I've been lazy and because I, didn't spend like 4 weeks in purgatory. Related note, the Legend of Acreus hipfire reticle is now a bit more representative of its very large spread angle. This is good because Legend of Acreus is obviously, we have 2 exotic heavy shotguns. We have Tractor Cannon, which, is easy to hit. Like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't have like a spread per se. Like, you're going to hit for max damage unless you're just like too far away or something. But then Acreus, you used to like walk slower with it, and then it's like it was just kind of debilitating, but it used to, I guess do fat damage or whatever. But yeah, good that they're adjusting this, because they obviously last season did quality of life with shotguns, where it's like, oh, we'll show you the spread. This is the spread of each kind of shotgun. The spread of it is dependent on the distance away from enemy and that sort of thing. So good that they're doing this with Acreus. They obviously, I don't know if we're going to go down. We're going to see sign for Tractor. I highly doubt it. Tractor's really easy to use. Kinetic weapons. Kinetic primary weapon damage multiplier against unshielded combatants increased from 1.05 to 1.1. Kinetic special weapon damage multiplier against unshielded combatants increased from 1.05 to 1.15. Okay. Kinetic slot stasis weapons no longer have the 5% damage bonus versus unshielded targets in PvP. This is good because stasis, once these came out, it just completely outclassed kinetic, and there wasn't, unless it was just a cracked kinetic, you wouldn't use it, you wouldn't really use it over, a stasis weapon, unless it's like a kinetic exotic or something like that. Exotics, Queenbreaker, now uses Arc 3.0 Blind. Shot now changed to multiple nearby enemies, kind of like Volt Shot, which is honestly kind of nice. It's an add clear option, kind of different identity, which, give at least gives it an identity type of thing. Ruinous Effigy. Transmutation Sphere Slam attack now suppresses. This is actually really cool. It gives it utility and anti-champion abilities with its suppression. Leviathan's Breath now applies volatile on perfect draw impact. Leviathan's Breath could low-key be like it's a hard-hitting bow. It's a heavy bow. Increased damage from 396 to 442. This allows it to once again one-hit kill all supers in PvP. Okay. Increased damage versus champions by 30%. Obviously, Leviathan's Breath has inherent unstoppable in it. And they did an update last year where the first hit, because obviously you get the concussive blast that it does, does full damage. Like like how you do full damage to an unstoppable when it is stunned. Because, before it was kind of underwhelming, and now it's an option. And it's only versus champions, though. Don't be trying to use this against every single boss. You know, it could be fun. You could still do some good damage with it, but it's not going to be. It's not going to be like, you know, relevant DPS compared to probably some other options. In my, at least what I think. 1,000 voices. Each explosion now applies 10 plus 5 with Ember of Ashes, so 15 Scorch stacks. I low-key kind of want to do the math on this. So if you have Ember of Ashes, which I don't know anybody that doesn't run Ember of Ashes, it's one of the best. It's one of the best things for solar builds, being able to ignite. It does a lot of damage, and I mean in PvP, obviously more Scorch stacks means that they're taking small DPS for a while. So 100 divided by 15, you're talking like six hits from it. That's actually really cracked. So you're going to essentially be igniting. I don't know if this is going to bring 1k in with the relevant DPS options, but I'm not going to lie. I am really, really, really excited for it. I think 1,000 voices, like, it could definitely use a catalyst. Unless this brings it in line with other DPS options, I'm really excited for it. Because it is fun. The last time this thing was relevant was when we had the Fusion and Linear mod. I can't remember what it's called. Where once you applied, it was like 5 stacks or like 6 or 7 stacks or something like that. You would use a rapid hit essentially, like Cartesian coordinate or something with Vorpal. Hit it once, swap to your 1k. Or your sleeper stimulant, and just clap for really fat damage, pretty much. We obviously aren't getting that mod back like this season. I don't know if they're ever going to bring it back, hopefully, because I mean, I don't mind when they bring artifact mods back, but it definitely shouldn't be something where it's like, oh, everyone knows this, oh, and then they know the meta before the season starts, or when they get these, or when they get, you know, the artifact. If Bungie doesn't tell us. If Bungie doesn't tell us what the artifact has on it. Sunshot. Explosion on kill now applies 10 plus 5 Scorch stacks. Really good ad clear. For those that don't know, you don't have to get a headshot with Sunshot. You get these fat explosions off of it just from killing an enemy. The only 150 in the game still. Pullover slants. Perfect fifth shots now apply 40 plus 20 Scorch stacks instead of a custom burn. So you're only going to need to land, I mean, this is going to be really good against champions, because for this weapon, whenever you land a precision hit, you return the round to the magazines. You can essentially have infinite ammo without ever having to reload if you're a really good shot. Two-tailed fox. Solar rocket now applies 60 plus 30 Scorch stacks instead of burn. Really good. All you're going to need to do with this is hit an enemy with it, and then hit your melee, or hit a melee, or hit a, you know, or a grenade on them, and you're gonna just fry things. Prometheus Lens added the incandescent perk to the catalyst. Really good. This weapon is obviously a trace that does more damage the longer it's held on a target. But obviously this gives it, you know, more than just... You know, this gives it an actual ad clear identity, because low-key, nobody uses Prometheus Lens to do DPS with, unless they're trolling. Unless it's their only weapon. I mean, who only has Prometheus Lens? Grand Overture, switch the catalyst to use Arc Blind. I don't know what kind of blind it was before. I'm assuming kinetic, and I don't know what the difference is. Maybe the difference is that this can have arc synergy in its build, I guess. You know, when you blind things and you're able... Because I know that there are some aspects on blind that if you kill a blinded target with, like, I think an arc weapon or something like that, or a, you know, crit shot, then you can, like, generate orbs. At least I think so. I haven't used arc in a while, to be honest, like, to that extent. But the Manicore added a hip fire reticle element to showing current stacks of anti-grav repulsor. Interesting. Tractor cannon fixed a crash when tractor cannon was fired at large groups of stasis crystals. It probably just overloaded it because it could just instantly destroy stasis crystals. So you just inevitably crash your system. The Fourth Horseman fixed an issue where this weapon had received an unintended 20% damage nerf. Oh, I know that they had tried to bring Fourth Horseman back in line. Well, not really back in line, but like to give it a buff, to give it some relevancy last season. I'm trying to remember what it was, I guess. I think it had to do with its recoil direction and firing it rapid, because the thing fires incredibly fast, and it's 4 shots, 5 if you have the catalyst. Thunderlord fixed an issue where this weapon's lightning strikes could disrupt you or your teammates? Okay. Perks. These perks have been updated to work with Strand, Osmosis, Tricorn, Elemental Capacitor. Oh, sweet. Oh, I think they had talked about this. Grants plus 20 airborne effectiveness, plus 25 for the enhanced perk. Because obviously all that about Strand is about being a ninja and swinging and being in the air. Rewind rounds built to work on non-vault of glass weapons. Okay. I'm not gonna lie. I think rewind rounds is a very is a unique perk, but it's kind of boring and not really. And like I'm not gonna say, but the only weapon I really feel like really benefits from this from Vogue is the light machine gun and the and Vision of Confluence type of thing. Eager Edge no longer deactivates when moving faster than 35 meters a second. Deactivates correctly after a single melee swing. Reduces the base lunge distance buff from 2 to 1.8. Reduced airborne lunge distance penalty from 25% to 20. The enhanced perk now increases lunge distance slightly, back up to 2. Blinding grenades. Renamed to disorienting grenades. Okay. Vice Stinger. This was typically a full reload when the perk activated. Now reloads 25% of the magazine. That is not a surprise. Vice Stinger is really, really, really strong. There are certain linears that used it that just would, you'd out DPS or be able to do, fat DPS without having to reload at all and just keep shooting it. Zen Moment. This now also reduces incoming flinch. That's good. So Zen Moment might be a perk that's actually coveted. This perk has been branched so that shots from different archetypes ramp up the effect more quickly. 1 times for submachine guns, auto rifles, and machine guns. 1.5 for pulse rifles and sidearms. 2 times for hand cannons and scout rifles. I'm curious as to why they did it on scouts. I understand for hand cannons because the hand cannon community, has feel like, they've been kind of left in the dust. Like their hand cannons have been nerfed to the point where they're way worse than, 340, just about any pulse, to be honest with you, 340 pulses especially. But scout rifles, I'm not really sure why. Unless you're running like a rapid fire that's close up or something, like it doesn't seem to make much sense that they give such a fat bonus to scouts. It doesn't seem to me like why would they give such a fat bonus to scouts, when they're part of the thing of like on bigger maps like Disjunction, on why can't I remember the map? The Trials of the Nine map or whatever. Eternity. And I mean, obviously, there are some other maps that are pretty big. People like to say Cathedral of Dusk, but I really feel like the lanes on Cathedral of Dusk aren't so terrible that they're not so terrible that, all you're doing is engaging from, 30 plus meters, right? Pulses and sides being second. It makes sense for subs, autos, and machine guns, honestly, to be there because machine guns would be too OP. You would have no flinch and just beam people in the head. They already did buff their damage and their TTK for less popular models and that they had a TWAB about to make them more relevant for PvP, because honestly they suck. You can get outgunned by just a better gun by them right now in PvP. Well, I guess not right now because no one can play, but coming tomorrow, thank goodness. You're gonna, because I honestly like using machine guns in PvP, but they're definitely the worst of the worst. Like, you use a rocket, a grenade launcher, a linear before, or a sword before you use a machine gun. Danger zone. Updated description include that while active, the perk also reduces self damage from the weapon. I'm not gonna lie, the first time I got this, I was like, what is the point of this? You're just gonna blow yourself up easier. But yeah, it has like for those that don't know, Parasite gives you a damage buff when you actually take some of the damage from it. But it's really, like, you really can't kill yourself with it unless you're aiming it right at your feet. And even then, like, I think at 20 stacks, if I think you have high enough resilience, you live with like 10% of your health or something. But yeah, Danger Zone, it'll be nice to know that for most people. I've never actually still used it. I've saved, I guess, a couple that I ended up dismantling just because I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to use this. Even though it could be useful when you're getting charged by Thrall or something like that. Wellspring. Fixed an issue where this perk was not rewarded the correct amount of energy. Okay. Maybe this makes Wellspring better. Now works with abilities that have multiple charges. For abilities with multiple charges, once the ability has one full charge, it is considered charged and will divert excess energy into the other abilities while giving the charged ability the least amount. Okay. The fix for the enhanced version of this trait is coming in a future patch. Okay. Cascade Point no longer triggers off of non-precision damage against weakened targets. Okay. So apparently people could get Cascade Point to activate by just doing a smoke grenade, a grenade that weakens the enemy and stuff like that. I guess I don't know if that includes Div. Div's kind of its own like particular thing that they always have to address usually because it's different. It functions differently than anything else. Abilities. Rescale the efficacy of discipline, strength, and each class ability stat on grenade, melee, and class ability regeneration rate. And general tier 10 stat is roughly equivalent to tier 8 in the previous system. Each increase in tier now provides a more consistent benefit to the ability's cooldown reduction rather than spiking heavily at low tiers. Okay. Hunter Supers. Arc Staff. Increase the maximum number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 5 to 7. Yeah, I thought the same thing. Like, this is so bogus that it's like, oh, this is a stationary, non-roaming exotic. Yeah, you can only get 5 orbs. Golden Gun Marksman. Increase the number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 5 to 7. Marksman is the one that if you ignite them, it refunds the bullet, and you can have theoretically infinite, but you start with 6 shots. And it takes like 2 shots to kill someone in their super usually. Golden Gun Deadshot. Increase the maximum number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 5 to 7. Spectral Blades. Increase the number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 5 to 7. Reduce base cooldown time from 10 minutes 25 seconds to 9 minutes 16 seconds. I still don't know if people are going to use Spectral. I know some people live by it in Crucible, and it's like, it is annoying when they get it because it is such a good super. But usually right now you have to be really cracked, but also have to play like a patient game in like trials to where you're going to get a lot of kills, but you're going to be able to play a slow game to even have a shot at getting it because it's just way too long. And it's obviously only relevant in PvP. Like, who uses Spectral in PvE, honestly? Gathering Storm. Decrease the maximum number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 7 to 5. Oh, and I completely switched this. Gathering Storm, is the one that sticks, and they're reducing it to 5. But it's obviously a lot easier to proc for that because you just do a high burst damage, and enemies walking through it just get instantly fried. Silence and Squall decrease the maximum numbers that can be created via defeating targets from 7 to 5. Blade Barrage is 7 to 5. Okay. Class abilities: Marksman Dodge, reduced base cooldown time from 34 to 29. Gambler's Dodge is reduced base cooldown time from 46 to 38. That's a revert. They said that it was too harsh. I agree. Dodges aren't even necessarily a guarantee of safety because, I mean, they aren't. Yeah, you get to reposition like slightly really quick, but you're not really moving so fast that like you're able to like benefit from it, and it's hard to use offensively. Melee's weighted throwing knife, increased base cooldown time from 109 to 137. Light White Knight is from 90 to 100. Explosive Knight is 100 to 110. And then Withering Blade, reduced base cooldown time from 113 to 100. Withering Blade, honestly, like was only used to maybe poke or stall a revive or something in trials and elimination. And it just, I mean, since they nerfed it and it doesn't deal that much damage, obviously it slows a pretty good amount. But yeah, it did not feel good trying to get 2 charges of this thing. Titan Supers. Fists of Havoc. Increased maximum orbs from 5 to 7. PvE damage by 20%, which is nice because Thunder Crash has been the best damage super for Titans for the longest time, even after they nerfed the guy, I can't remember the Thunder Crash chest piece. Why can't I remember its name? Glacial Quake increased the orbs from 5 to 7. Hammer's Soul 5 to 7. Reduced base cooldown time from 10.5 to 9 minutes. So just like Spectral Blades. But obviously the difference between, I think, this super and Spectral is that Spectral doesn't have range. You got invisibility, but Hammer's Soul, you can hit somebody, stand in the sunspot, and throw hammers faster and have your super decrease slower. So, I mean, it's touchy and hard for this type of thing because it is so easy to get kills with. A Burning Maul increased the orbs from 5 to 7. Sentinel Shield orbs 5 to 7. Thunder Crash decreased the maximum orbs from 7 to 5. Reduced the flight time to 4.5 seconds, which is good because people would just fly around and kill like 3 people or something, 3 or 4 people with just the back electricity from it, and then get even more type of thing. Reduced size of the damage and volume around the player and pushed it farther forward in front of the player to make drive-by disintegrations more intentional. Reduced detonation size versus players by 20%. Unchanged versus PvE. Because, yeah, the dumbest thing is you couldn't even be relatively close when you did Thunder Crash. Like, it wouldn't even look like you got hit, but you would just die. You would just die from Thunder Crash. You know, I do the famous Thunder Crash, in PvE type of thing. And, I mean, the rest is history usually. But downward vertical influence now begins earlier in flight. Good, because it's one thing that, like, you know, in VOW, you can literally on the before expedition, before the third encounter, it's not expedition, it's, I can't remember what the term is. It's the artifact running encounter, but yeah, you could literally Thunder Crash across and set the path, you know, and just essentially cheat as a Titan without actually cheating, of course. But Ward of Dawn, ward maximum health reduced from 13.5 to 8k. We'll see if it makes a difference. Bring out your Hake breach armaments that work against this. Rescaled PvE combatant damage versus the ward to compensate. In general, Ward of Dawn's effective HP against PvE combatants should not meaningfully change. Good. Standardize the damage dealt by each type of kinetic and energy weapon against the ward. Previously, energy weapons did 2.5 times damage to a ward of dawn, and kinetic damage did 1 times. Now, regardless of damage type, weapons do 1.5 damage to the ward. So they're meeting about in the middle, a little bit lower than that. But Armor of Light has been updated to reduce its potency in PvP. Maximum health reduced from 425 to 300. Good. Now inherents void overshields 50% PvE damage resistance to compensate. No longer negates precision damage. Good. Melee's ballistic slam now suppresses the attacking player's base melee for 0.9 for almost a full seconds after landing. So fallout melee cannot be performed until the player returns to the first person. Returns to first person. I don't know why I said to the first. Yeah. Increased base cooldown from 90 seconds to 114. Shield Bash, increased base cooldown time from 90 to 114. Seismic Strike, increased base cooldown time from 90 to 101. Hammer Strike, increased base cooldown from 90 to 101. Shield Toss, reduced base cooldown time from 100 seconds to 91. I love this. I always call this the Frisbee. It's actually really good. People sleep on it. I mean, in PvE, it's honestly really good. Like you can obviously suppress with a shield charge, but I've been waiting for these to get nerfed for a while, because if they aren't going to take away the actual ability unless you damage somebody, these need to be at a much higher cooldown, because Titan is just so... At this point, it is so confoundingly easy to play versus other classes that you need to actually like play with a little bit of strategy with, that, you know, if they want to still be able to play the same way, they need to have cooldown nerfs. Aspects, knockout. Reduced basic melee damage bonus versus players from 60 to 50%. Good. Reduced full body melee damage bonus versus players from 25 to 20%. Good. Knockout was too easy, and you know how many times I'd see people that it's like they would try to shoot someone that was, you know, just gonna punch the first person and then go and double melee the second. Is the dumbest crap I've ever seen. Warlock Super Storm Trance, increased orbs from 5 to 7. Nova Warp 5 to 7. Winter's Wrath 5 to 7. Storm Trance is Tickle Fingers. Nova Warp is Welfare Child. I don't know. Welfare Child. I don't know what people call it. Winter's Wrath, Stasis. You know, brain dead super in my opinion. That people use in PvP sometimes. Daybreak, increase the maximum number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 5 to 7. Throw cost reduced from 10% to 6.5 per swing. Increased damage versus PvE commands by 25%. Reduced base cooldown down to 9 minutes, like Spectral and Hammer of Soul. Chaos Reach, decrease the maximum number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 7 to 5. Nova Bomb, 7 to 5. Class abilities, Phoenix Dive. Cooldown goes down to 55 seconds from 82. While Daybreak is active, Phoenix Dive's cooldown is significantly reduced, allowing for rapid reactivations, which should be, it's a super. It should be powerful. While Daybreak is active, Phoenix Dive's detonation damage increased from 40 to 80, min-max to 100 to 220. So it can actually, so it can actually like one shot. Restoration duration when active while heat rises is that active increases from 1 second to 3 seconds. Melee Celestial Fire, increased base cooldown time from 100 to 112 is honestly pretty good. Incinerator Snap, base cooldown time from 90 to 83. I actually like Incinerator Snap. It's kind of hard to apply in PvP. You have to kind of have a knack for it or feel out when the enemy's not going to be like rushing you straight on, because if they're rushing you straight on, the solar projectiles can just float above or miss the enemy or hit the ground or whatever. Penumbral Blast, reduced base cooldown time from 114 to 101. Aspects, Heat Rises, split the airborne effectiveness bonus previously granted by consuming a grenade between a passive and active benefit. Previously granted 70 airborne effectiveness when Heat Rises was active after consuming a grenade. Now grants 20 airborne effectiveness passively while Heat Rises is equipped, and an additional 50 airborne effectiveness while Heat Rises is active, for the same total of 70 airborne effectiveness. Okay, so instead of having to be all in on your Heat Rises, you can be partially in and use it more effectively, which is, good, honestly. 20 obviously being 5 more than like Icarus grip. Grenades, arc, lightning grenades, increase base cooldown from 120 to 152. Increase PvE damage by 20%. Storm grenade, increased base cooldown time from 105 to 121. Flux grenade, reduced base cooldown time from 182 to 152. Pulse grenade, increased PvE damage by 20. That's actually really good for Titan because they, in their aspect, their pulse grenade increases in damage, but also gives ionic traces. But when it continuously damages opponents, which is really nice. But that's going to be the primary grenade for any stationary boss at this point. If you're running Thunder Crash Titan, probably. Solar Healing Grenade. Increased base cooldown time from 82 seconds to 91 seconds. Good. Trip Mine Grenade. Increased base cooldown from 91 to 121. Probably because of all the Kara people running it, and it's honestly kind of brain dead. I know that like there was one time that I got a triple kill like last week on one, and these people had been like lightly tagged by a person that ran into them, and they decided to push, and I just got a free triple kill. Like did pretty much nothing besides landing it on a wall where they, came around. Thermite Grenade is increased base cooldown from 105 to 121. I guess the PvE damage going up. Thermite Grenades are pretty strong. They're kind of easy to avoid if you know they're coming, but they do hit pretty hard. If you don't know they're coming, and then you're just easy pickings. Incendiary Grenade, reduced base cooldown time from 121 to 105. I think that's fair. I think Incendiary Grenade takes actually a good amount of skill to run effectively. It is a pretty high damage grenade, but it does bounce, type of thing. And it is one of those that it doesn't have any exotics that are geared specifically towards it. But, I've always liked Incendiary Grenade. It was like the base grenade for hunters in D1. I remember when I first started playing, but way back when. But a Void Spike Grenade, increased base cooldown time from 91 to 121. PV damage by 20%. Void Wall, increased PV damage by 20, but 105 to 152. This one is kind of deceptive. I think that the Void Wall needs kind of an animation-like upgrade, because sometimes the purple flames and how they're see-through, they're too light and you don't even realize that you're walking through one, unless you're looking at the ground and you see the red lines. Vortex Grenade higher is good. Increased PV damage by 20%. That's really nice. Magnetic is reduced by 121 to 105, which I actually like magnetic grenades, and they're nice single target. So if you have to apply like volatile or weaken, you can get a guaranteed hit on them. Scatter Grenade reduced from 121 to 105. Scatter grenades, the only reason I would say is like that is because they're too unpredictable. Unless the person isn't moving, you can end up like hitting one right near them and they'll still not die from it, even though it's a very, high DPS by, yeah, I guess, point 0.1 like seconds and onward, type of thing until it ends after, not even like half a second. But Stasis Duskfield Grenade. Increased base cooldown from 64 to 91. I didn't realize it was even that low. That is actually kind of ridiculous. Obviously really good for any sort of builds with renewal grasps. And, I mean, with the stasis shards, you just get increased base regen, and you have one of these every round. Yeah, I didn't realize that was that low, to be honest. Added new elemental pickups to the Void and Solar subclasses. Void Breach. Void Breaches are created by a selection of new and existing Void fragments and grant class ability energy on pickup. Fire Sprite. Fire Sprites are created by a suite of new and existing Solar fragments and grant grenade energy pickups. These are pretty much elemental wells, you guys. Fragments Arc, Spark of Resistance, increase nearby enemy count requirement for hydrogen from 2 to 3. Reduced linger time after you're no longer surrounded from 4 seconds to 2 seconds. Spark of Instinct, which is new. When critically wounded, taking damage from nearby enemies emits a burst of damaging arc energies that jolts targets. Sounds really strong, I guess. I mean, obviously you don't usually want to be surrounded, or you don't want to be critically wounded or whatever that much, but like maybe this can be used one way or another. Spark of Haste. You have greatly increased resilience, recovery, and mobility while sprinting. I think it's a really good idea. I think that with becoming amplified, a lot of people, they just know where you are because you make such a big sound, and then there's that current like jet stream kind of sound, so you can hear someone easily coming, so they don't necessarily, I mean, they have a movement speed and sliding advantage when they're amplified, but this kind of gives leeway and strength into more PvP builds where you can run this. Solar Ember of Tampering now creates a fire sprite on solar weapon kills while active in addition to its original effects. Ember of Combustion now creates a fire sprite on solar super defeats in addition to its original effects. Ember of Searing now creates a fire sprite when defeating scorched targets in addition to its original effects. Ember of Mercy, new. When you revive an ally, you and other nearby allies gain restoration. Picking up a solar flare grants restoration. Interesting. Solar flares are the new elemental wells, by the way. Ember of Resolve. Solar grenade final blows heal you. This honestly just kind of gives me that you're going to be able to run like ashes to ashes and that sort of thing, and you're just going to, I mean, if you're able to spam or come up with a build type of thing, like you're going to be a PvE killing machine. Obviously, it doesn't work exactly like Devour, but you have to get solar grenade kills. I know that this honestly makes like Sunbreakers pretty strong, at least, just from face value, that you're going to be able to hit a melee, you're going to be able to have any number of these up type of things, get your melee builds ready with 100 strength. You're going to be able to essentially have a ton of grenades and not be able to die when there's like 5 or 6 of these grenades on the ground spewing out, fire. Void. Echo of Domineering now creates a Void Breach when defeating suppressed targets in addition to its original effects. Void Breach is the Void Elemental Well. Echo of Harvest now creates a Void Breach when defeating weakened targets with precision damage in addition to its original effects. Echo of Starvation now grants Devour on picking up a Void Breach in addition to its original effects. Now allows Orb of Power back out with full super energy. Excuse me. Echo of Cessation, new finisher final blows create a burst of void damage that causes nearby enemies to become volatile. Defeating volatile targets creates a void breach. Echo of Vigilance, new. Defeating the target when your shields are depleted grants you a temporary void overshield. That's actually really cool subclass keywords. Arc, Jolt, Jolt Lightning damage now stuns Overload champions. Blind, Blinding Unstoppable champions now stuns them. So obviously Arc is Overload and Unstoppable. Solar, Radiant, is when you're Radiant, you have Anti-Barrier. No weapons that already have an existing anti-champion behavior, i.e. an artifact mod, an intrinsic anti-champion capability, or the ability to apply another subclass keyword that says champion type will not be granted the anti-barrier behavior from being Radiant. Ignition damage now stuns Unstoppable. So you have Barrier Unstoppable with Solar. Void, Volatile rounds. While you have Volatile rounds, your Void weapons now also pierce Barrier champion shields and stuns them. This is really good with like Gear Falcons. For Hunters, Volatile rounds, you could obviously run a Devour build really easily, and have a Void, have the aspect on that gives you Volatile rounds to Void weapons, pretty free to stun barriers. I'm glad that they're giving a lot of good ways to do barriers because they're some of the more frustrating champions sometimes. Overloads obviously are too, but weapons that already have an existing anti-champion behavior, i.e. an artifact mod, an intrinsic anti-barrier anti-champion capability, or the ability to apply another subclass keyword that stuns a champion type will not be granted the anti-barrier behavior from volatile rounds. Obviously, you're not going to be able to do this with Le Monarch as one weapon, because Le Monarch has intrinsic overload. They're pretty much trying to make it so that exotics aren't too OP, which I agree with. Sometimes, and especially like Le Monarch. Le Monarch is so, if there's Void Burn, it's free for kills in GMs right now. And they're obviously, trying to make the game more challenging, and they're not going to do that if they give us, these all-purpose exotic anti-champion weapons. Suppression with Overload, champions now stuns them. Stasis slows, are going to be able to stun Overloads, which is really nice. Shatter damage now stuns Unstoppable champions. That's really nice as well. So, you're going to really... the main thing that people have been talking about is that you have a Riptide. You're able to deal with Overload and Unstoppable if you have Chill Clip on it. If you don't have one, fear not. You can still farm for it. It came out in Season of the Haunted. So it has been around for 3 seasons, and the thing had an insane drop right when it first came out, to be honest with you. Got so many Riptides. But it's going to be, it's able to be focused. So if you don't have one, get one. It is worth to have. And the fact of the matter is it has high ammo reserves because it's a rapid fire frame fusion. In the kinetic slot, of course, because it's stasis. Moving on to combatants, we have champions now correctly stun even when they're playing another animation, such as a spawn-in. This was a tricky one, so thank you for your patience. Okay. Obviously, the main thing with this one that I think of the most recent debacle that people had was that in King's Fall, when you're doing the doorway, I guess, I don't know what the encounter is called, the plate, that you have to give enough of the tribute to. You obviously Unstoppable spawn in there, but people would stun it right as it was coming out of the ground, and essentially it would just rush its ability to come at you. So you would just not be able to stun it because it was said it was stunned, and it would just kill you because, Ogre running at you, laser beam, just melt with no cover. Unless I guess you were running Titan or something with a wall, okay. Champion stun is now consistent across all champions. This used to be dependent on the animation length, leading to slightly different times between combatants. Champions can now be stunned with various elemental verbs. Okay, this is what we kind of went. Variant champions are Radiant, Volatile, and then Unraveling. Overload are jolt, suppression, and slow. Unstable champions are blind, ignition, shatter, and suspension with strand. So, I mean, they give us a lot for unstoppable, but unstoppable were pretty easy in the past before. Like, they're really not. They're kind of dumb champions, to be honest with you. Like, they usually just run at you. But finishers. All subclass agnostic finishers now support strand coloration when using a strand subclass. So, like, when you do, certain subclasses and it's either, you know, uh, purple, blue, green, or I guess the darker kind of strand, or I mean, not strand, stasis coloring, you're going to be able to see that with your new ones. The Ghost Fist Bump Exotic emote now supports strand coloration when using a strand subclass. That emote, I actually bought it last night. It came from last season. You actually do so you essentially fist bump your ghost and then you do a little hand wiggle, when it comes back. It's pretty funny. But power and progression. Weekly powerful rewards have been removed from Throne World and added to Neomuna. Makes sense. So you're not going to be able to do like the Altars of Reflection. Finch isn't going to give a powerful... I guess I can't. God, the other ones I can't even remember. I know there's like a few. There was like a few of them. One of them was Pinnacle, obviously, but I'm sure that was remote. But they're talking about powerfuls right now. Preservation was Pinnacle, but power and progression weekly. Okay. Seasonal updates. Ingrams, energy, focusing, chests, and keys. Umbral Ingrams are no longer used to focus seasonal weapons and armor and will no longer drop from the game. As a result, there will no longer be seasonal Umbral energy. Seasonal Ingrams are a new type of Ingram. You can visit the seasonal vendor to open them, or you can spend multiple seasonal Ingrams to focus into specific weapons or armor. Seasonal focusing is now a separate screen and can be accessed at the vendor by pressing the button next to upgrades. If you focus Crucible Ingrams in Season 19 at Shaxx, you'll be familiar with this system. So those ones with Shaxx where obviously they're red and they have the Crucible emblem on them, and you could go to the weapons and you wouldn't have to grab the oh my god, you wouldn't have to grab the Ingram. You would just be able to, purchase it, and it would take from your stockpile of Crucible Ingrams. Seasonal Ingrams are stored at the vendor and do not require inventory space. There is a wallet item you can acquire by visiting the seasonal vendor. Hovering over this item in your inventory will show you how many Ingrams you have for each vendor. If you delete this item, you can reacquire it from the vendor. That's really nice. That's kind of like what they did with the Resonant things with the Doritos. But obviously those aren't going to be a thing anymore, so I'm sure that's like going away. Like they probably didn't even bother to tell us because people are just glad. But you could see how many you had without having to have a weapon ready to do it, to get the Doritos from it, the 300. But there was a world item. Okay, we just read that. Owners of a season will now periodically be rewarded with a seasonal Ingram and or a seasonal key upon completing activities throughout the game. These are known as Defiant Ingrams and Defiant Keys for Season of Defiance, because they're going to change every single season. So there's not going to be any of this, like, you're not going to stockpile like Armbles like you did in the past, because those don't exist, but you're not going to really, there's going to be no point to stockpiling them for the next season. Really, I guess. Players' versions of the seasonal battlegrounds have one chest at the end of the activity. If you do not have a seasonal key when you open that chest, you will receive a seasonal weapon or armor. If you do have a seasonal key, it will be consumed and you will receive the following: either a seasonal weapon with Deep-Sight Resonance that you have not completed the crafting pattern for, or a high stat piece of seasonal armor. This is really, really nice because our systems in the past have kind of pretty essentially gatekept us to where it's like you have to play like 30 hours or something if you're really trying to. And I mean, I knew people last season and Season of the Seraph that they really wanted, one of the seasonal weapons, but they weren't able to be focused until you had so many perks and it was so many weeks into the season. So you really couldn't get your hands on them until like a month or a month and a half in, and that sort of thing. So this is going to be really nice because it's going to get weapons in the hands of people that want them quicker. You just have to be grinding, which we all love the grind if we love Destiny, right? And end a seasonal Ingram with this, which I'm assuming doesn't guarantee a red border, but they can't always guarantee a red border. Like that would just be too OP for people that grind, I guess. Make sure you open the chest at the end of the activity, because you don't just get it automatically awarded. It's not like when you play. It's not like when you play Vanguard Strikes or, Crucible automatic rewards or Gambit. Obviously, Gambit or Crucible don't have a chest. They just award. But, you obviously need to go up to the chest in Vanguard playlist to get your rewards. But make sure you open the chest. Whirlpool weapons and armor no longer drop at the end of playlist version of seasonal activities. So you're not going to get world drops, which that's kind of nice. I'm not going to lie. You're only going to be able to get world drops from other sources, which, isn't a problem. You get so many world drops to unlock the armor if you like it or anything else. Direct launch versions of the seasonal battlegrounds will not have chests and instead award whirlpool weapons and armor. Okay. So yeah, the seasonal battlegrounds is where you're going to be able to get these and you're not going to have to worry about it. I guess people, I don't know if anybody's ever complained about this, but it's like it's easier to get the gear, I guess. It's just going to award to you. Nice. Platform and systems. PC platforms. Added support and in-game setting to toggle NVIDIA Reflex on supported PC hardware. Fixed various minor quality of life issues regarding the controller settings menus on PC. Okay. This looks like something to maybe boost frame rate? I don't even know actually. NVIDIA, I mean that does have to do with NVIDIA G-Sync, I'm assuming, for optimization. I mean that's really nice if they are. I mean that's really big. I mean they only have this in one setting, which is kind of crazy. General collision damage is no longer lethal against Guardians. Ghost projections that changed color based on your subclass now support strand coloration when using a strand subclass. Localization. Players now have access to full Mandarin audio localization across all new Lightfall content, the accompanying season, and core game modes covering Crucible, Gambit, and Strikes. Ikora for German has been recast. Okay. That's a random note, but that is the end of this. I'm just going to say there's a lot in here. This might be a good thing to bookmark or come back to refer to. I mean, I'm honestly, what, I'm going to bookmark it. I'm going to just call it the Lightfall goods. Or the Lightfall info I need. And I'm going to save this thing. But, yeah, this is kind of insane. Final impressions, I like what they're doing. I think, we're moving in the right direction. And I think Lightfall is going to be epic. But if you made it to the end of this video, peace out. And thank you for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow, hopefully, at my 24-hour Lightfall stream.